tell me if this is an example of positive EV. So take coin flips out of it. I'm a visual guy. My example was Cubs versus Cardinals, right? So I have one book, let's call it Pinnacle, and I have the Cardinals at minus 105, right? And then I have another book, MGM.
All right. Thanks for coming back, puppy. Episode 6. I think this is the time now where I tell everyone to like and subscribe. And I think this is going to be a big year. I think we're going to do at least 50 some episodes. So that's even more of a reason to subscribe and give us a like and help us get out. I think it's just something I got to say every episode, or at least in the beginning. It's just worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's a new year. Man, we got some bets to go over, but I'm gonna say as far as a goal this year, I don't usually make goals, but if there's anything, I would say, I'm gonna put 110% effort into the show. And we're gonna come up with some really good facts and some info. Tried to do some good stuff today, and we're gonna talk about it. But overall, I'm really excited. This whole year is just going to be nothing but betting public for me, and moving forward, I think it's just going to be really good. Like, I'm really excited. We had a little start in the beginning. We missed a couple weeks here and there, but we want to stay consistent, and we want to try to do at least one a week, maybe 2 a week if we can, if we have other people come on. But I'm just going to reiterate, that's another reason just to subscribe. And I mean, as far as goals this year, I mean, I'm all 100%. So that being said, I mean, did you have anything that you, any goals for you, man?
Well, yeah. Growth, right? Yeah. In every aspect. First of all, thanks again for having me. And thank you all, the betting public, for tuning in to another edition here. You hit the nail on the head. Facts. I think that helps, to make sense in a world full of chaos, to have some sort of strategic maneuvers that might help you navigate these choppy waters, right? So thanks again.
We're both learning.
We're both learning on the fly.
We have a lot of knowledge, and I think we're going to try to highlight some of these topics from time to time. And, we'll just put, a microscope on it, and we'll see if it's something that we can use forward, or if it's something that we do already, and whatever we think about it. Because to be quite honest, something that we're going to talk about today, positive EV betting, I'm not too particular. Okay, let me say this right. I'm not a strong proponent of it. I'm really more of a selective type bettor. And so I made 3 bets this week. And my first 2 bets were very selective, and they were they won. And here, the first bet, Dallas over 1.5 field goals, that was minus 177. Now I took that. You can say, that was too high juice or whatever for most bettors, but I really dwelled into the stats of that game. And I found that the Dallas Cowboys always make 2 field goals on Thursday Night Football. It's just something in their DNA. Every Thursday Night Football for the past few years, 2 field goals, 2 field goals, 2 field goals. And so I saw that before I took that number. And
so you saw a trend.
Yeah, well, I guess you could say it was a trend. I mean, in that situation, I just think it's something to do with the coach. I mean, we're talking, it's the same coach. So I use the same coach. And I forget the guy's name, McCarthy. And yeah, every Thursday, it didn't matter. It felt like he used his kicker at minimum twice on every occurrence. And they played at least twice every year, almost once, maybe twice every year. So it was like, all right, I really liked it. I even played him in fantasy. That's how I even got on that. I was looking to find a good kicker, and I was actually not interested in Brad Mayer. And I took him. He ended up doing very well. I cashed the ticket, did very well for me in fantasy. That was just I guess a function of fantasy football leading me to a pick. I did some research on it, made the play, cashed very easily, so I was very happy with that. But I think a lot of people would be turned off by that 177. But when I saw that amount of evidence on a certain play, it was definitely just something I had to take.
I hear you.
Yeah.
No, I hear you.
Yeah. You do high. I mean, how often do you take minus 177s? We talked about this a little bit, but I mean, what are your thoughts on taking high odds or high whatever juice?
It's a great question. So obviously, when you talk about high wagers, because basically that's what you're talking about at that point, you got to think about risk management. So part of what you're probably gonna talk about in a second is EV, right? A lot of folks don't even know what EV is. I myself am coming into these new terms. I believe EV stands for expected value, right? So it sounds like you went through a process where you assessed all the data that you needed to assess and you came up with a high probability and you told yourself there's a very strong probability that minus 177 should really be, minus 2 something, or I don't know how you come up with yours, but that's how I would be looking at it. So if you're asking me if I take higher wagers, higher juice, yeah, absolutely. It's all based on a system. Everyone should have their own system. Everyone should have an EV system where they're trying to calculate some sort of expected probability based off of hard data and analysis.
I look at them as whether or not they're going to win or not. I always look at it as kind of either a 100% or a 0. There's never any in between. And yeah, unfortunately, that was minus 177. It was really high. That just happened to be what it was. The matter of fact is that it wasn't there wasn't no value there. There was what it was it was going to be a winner, and that's just what the books were offering me. Now I probably could have.
Did you make money though? Is the point?
Oh yeah, well that's just I bet a lot of first innings in baseball, and as long as you win those, and that's just the way I felt with this one, because I guess technically if you play that a lot, I don't think you'd win long term, but picking your spots very like random, not just randomly, but like, I might not do another field goal for another few weeks. Or whenever the occasion arises that I see something that's just kind of like, yeah, that's the one. I mean, it's how often do you go into a game looking at field goal to bet?
Probably never.
Right. So it was just something that caught my eye. I looked back at all these Thursday night games between the Cowboys, and it was just like eye glaring. It was like, wow, like they at least used their kicker twice. There was literally one game that I found in like Mike McCarthy's like 3 or 4 past years, whatever it was. And so yeah, I liked it a lot. That high juice or whatever you want to call it, or vague, I'm not even sure. That doesn't scare me off. There was a 100% winner. Went with it, and I was happy. Add in the Discord.
Did you have any other ones?
Yeah, I had Justin Fields. This was another one that was very similar to the field goal. I had Justin Fields under 11.5 rush. Ooh. And yeah, he had 10 rush. So, I was pretty comfortable there. But basically, it was something that I was kind of looking. I wanted to do something with Justin Fields. I feel like the Bears have been a little predictable. We talked about that halftime bet where the Bears for second half that cashed. But you couldn't make that bet until halftime. So I was kind of looking at the game to see about that halftime bet, like what were the opening line so that when I go and I make my halftime bet, I have kind of a reference of what the game started at, kind of what I'm looking at, maybe, just kind of seeing where I'm at. And I found that Justin Fields one. I started doing some research, and Justin Fields, he's been running a lot. He needed to break that record. And I think if he hadn't broke that record, he might have went over his rushes, in the game. But he needed about 70 yards. He picked it up immediately in the first quarter. And then he got kind of like dinged up and didn't run again whatsoever. And, going into that game, there was a lot of talk on the TV about protecting him, basically. And then there was a lot of talk about the Lions being able to catch him because I guess he had burnt them in previous weeks when he played them the last time. So there was a lot of so he had one side saying, yeah, we're not really gonna use him a lot in the run game. And then you had the other team saying, well, he already burnt us once. We're definitely gonna make sure he doesn't burn us again. So there was a lot of there wasn't any numbers. I looked at the numbers. I mean, they're all random. You know, some games he's going way over the total. Some games he went way under the total. I couldn't really use a line in this situation. I mean, it's still a player prop, you know.
But it's still 2-0 on props in the Discord is pretty solid. So congrats to that.
Well, and to be quiet, and there were so many other games that like you could have bet, right? They're not. If there was other games that I bet they'd be in the Discord, but they're not. You know, these were. You know what we are. You know what I like to be. An opportunist. These were opportunities. I didn't mean to find them. You know, I was looking for fantasy. And then I was looking for our second half bet that we talked about last week on the show, and that cashed. I didn't put it in the Discord, but that one cashed. You know, that's an unofficial bet. So that was, you know, opportunity. That's just kind of like my favorite type.
Actually, I've been meaning to ask you something. Do you think that playing fantasy? Do you think it helps, or you think it like doesn't help with respect to what we're talking about right now?
Yeah, I mean, it helps and hurts. I mean,
because no. I can easily see how, like, looking, because I'm obviously in the same league, we look through the same statistics, right? I could see how it could be very helpful in a prop market.
I think,
especially the way they break down the game by game.
So I would say it benefits you with player props 100%. You know, not just your players, but you know, if you're looking around the league and you just see like some players are adding or something, and maybe that's a player that you look for in the player prop market as well, you know, because he might be an up and coming player if you're picking him up, you know. So player props for sure. In the games though, I don't think that. See, again, because I'm not using players to grade the games or choosing which, you know, games based on the players. It's all about the number. It's about just the, you know, everything, spot, rhythm, you know, what particular.
Sometimes it could be a player with respect to like an injury or something like that.
Yeah,
player might have some value, a couple points here or there.
Well, no, then it's already baked into the line, you know. So it's, I mean, I don't really want to get involved with players and with games when it comes to spreads and totals. I'd rather just look at it as a whole and not even worry about that player. I mean, you know, what's many of these players worth, and then, you know, a backup comes in and performs just as well. You never know. I don't know how to particularly grade that or look at it from a statistical like area and say, yeah, this guy does better and he might do better because of these stats pertaining to this. Yeah, or whatever, you know, but I really don't. I don't.
I was just curious.
So yeah, then I had one more last night, and this was okay, and this was interesting. This is going to bring us to positive EV. So I had Denver, Minnesota to end the week. I was looking to go 3-0. I had them under 232 minus 110. All right. So I'm not going to get into how I really got onto that pick as far as what led me, but we'll talk about the live betting action of that game. Okay. The first quarter, they scored 46 points. The total was 232 minus 110. The live betting action for that game, they had 224 at plus 160 for the over. So they had scored 46 points, and they were putting up in the live betting section 226 plus 160. Now I have 232 under and minus 110. And believe me, after the first quarter, it looks like I'm going to win, right? But, you know, I had kind of looked at that game, and I had kind of known that they were going to have a bad quarter and they were going to have good quarters. and they already had their bad quarter at 46. And so I was kind of looking at it a little hesitant, thinking, should I make a move here? Now, I don't normally make moves in these type of situations. Just let the bet ride, whatever. But I happened to just be looking at the totals to see where I was. They were offering 226 at plus 160. I'm good. I've got a great number. I'm under 232. But it brings me, should I have live bet the 226? Or actually, I'm sorry, it was at 224. It was 224 at plus 160. And then I would be sitting on a under ticket at 232. And I would be sitting at an over ticket at plus 160 at 224. So I have an option at a middle of 8 numbers. And if I hit that middle, then I hit minus 110 and a plus 160. And then if it goes over the 232, well, then I still have a plus 160, even though I lost my initial bet. So, okay, so when that happened, I thought about that, and I thought, well, is that just truly hedging, or is that like, if I'm betting an in-game bet where I can get the other side at really strong positive odds, like, that's not truly hedging, do you think?
I mean,
I came up with a word for it, but tell me.
So here's what I think. As long as you've figured out the math to where you can make a wager on both sides and you're still going to end up with positive units, I think you're doing the right thing, right? Now, is that an example of hedging? I actually think it is. You're looking to guarantee a positive unit outcome, are you not? By taking both sides.
Okay, and so I believe that is exactly what positive EV betting is. Now, okay, so when I looked into positive EV betting is subjective. People, I've seen some formulas. What it boils down to, though, is you're expecting over the long term to be in the positive as opposed to being in the negative. Okay, now how you do the positive EV betting, and what I was talking about right now, and I want to name it hedging positive EV, and I'm sure that's like what they call it anyway. But if I would have hedged there, I would have had an opportunity of this. I would have had an opportunity of, if it went over to 224, I would have made 60. Let's say I bet 100 and it was 160. I would have made $60. Okay, because I would have lost my 100 on the under. Okay, but I would make 60. If it middles, I win both bets. If it goes under and doesn't reach the 224, well, then I get my money back regardless. So I was in a situation where I either win a lot, win a little, or get my money back. And in that situation, there was
no downside.
There was no downside. So in my explanation, a positive EV bet is a bet that you can't lose. Right? Now, okay, that's not what a lot of people would call positive EV betting, though. That's like a positive EV. That's why I said it's a hedge. So there's a couple things here. Positive EV betting for a lot of people, or what they look at is they want to compare what they're getting from certain books to what the sharpest book is offering. So in other words, and I wrote something down here. Let's say Pinnacle, which is what a lot of people use as the golden standard as far as what they're going to use to get fair odds. Okay. Actually, before I get into that, let me break down this. Let me make sure that we understand this. Are you familiar with the law of numbers?
Enlighten me.
I'm not really sure if that's real. I might have just made that up.
That's why I said enlighten me,
man. All right, no. Okay, the law of numbers kind of goes like this. if I have, and this is a widely used like kind of comparison, right? Kind of that's always used in this scenario. If you have a coin and you flip it, theoretically it's supposed to land 50% on tails, 50% on heads. Are you agreement with that?
Actually, I had a pretty good analogy for that one, for coin flips, to
Yeah.
kind of get people, because not everyone may understand the terminology. So for those who are just coming in with the coin flip strategy, and you can take over whenever you'd like, but theoretically, heads or tails, it should be plus 100 heads, plus 100 tails, right? But it's not, right? The book might give you juice minus 110 tails, minus 110 heads, and that's because they're taking the vig. They're taking a small percentage of either bet on either side.
What do you mean minus 110?
Yeah, minus 110.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, minus 110, right? So let's just say whether you win or you lose, expect to give about 5% to the house, which is why what he's talking about, Chief is talking about with the expected value and positive value. These terms are important to remember because they're helping you stay ahead of the curve. So when the books are making these numbers, you want to make sure you're ahead of that curve. So at the end of the day, you're positive units. It's not necessarily about how much you win or lose. So a simpleton might be like, I won 30 out of 50 bets, and they're posting it and they're trying to, pretend like they're making a lot of money. But the reality is, if they didn't do their homework, you could actually be down in that situation. I've seen people, and I know you've seen it too, where they win like 30% of their bets, but they're still profitable 30 to 40% because of the types of obscure sports they like. Maybe they like badminton, archery. There's some soccer bets that could be profitable, but you're talking about juice in the like plus 500, plus 700, or tennis, right? Where you might see some plus 1000s or plus 800s. If you're winning 30% of those bets or 40% of those bets, now you might be in some sort of a profitable scenario. So I know I went off a little bit of a tangent. You can pick up wherever you left off, but
well, I want to pick off back.
Yeah,
at the coin.
yeah. I kind of took the wind out of your sails there. My fault.
No, it's fine,
brother.
All right, no, I want to get back because this is okay. So I want to get back to the coin flip. All right, we can agree that theoretically, if you flip a coin 100 times or 1,000 times, it's going to land, 50-50 on both sides, give or take a little variance here or there, right? Like it's not going to be exactly 100. Like 100 times, you might get 55-45, or 52-48, right? It's going to be real close, right? Or it's supposed to be real close because that's the odds, right? Well, let me ask you, what would happen if you were making a bet on both of these flips, and they were offering you, whoever was offering you, because a book would never offer you this, or maybe they would, plus 110 on heads and plus 100 on tails, right? How would you place a bet for that to be positive EV? How would you do that?
Care to enlighten us? Because like I said before, when it comes to calculations.
No. The book is offering you plus 110 on heads and plus 100 on tails. There's only two outcomes that can happen. How would you bet to make this a positive EV bet?
Okay, so essentially, all right, so we got two bets here. $100, 110. I had a different example. I guess was why
you're getting plus 110. The book is paying you for every 100. They're paying you $110.
So okay.
No, just answer it. Just answer it. If the book, there's two outcomes. One outcome pays you even money. The other outcome pays you even plus $10. Which bet would you take, or how would you make this bet?
It's not a type of bet that I would make. Okay. That's why I'm a little taken off guard.
So this is actually a really good bet. This is the type of bet you would probably want to take every single time, and I'll explain it to you. Okay.
All right.
So
enlighten us.
Okay, so if you bet heads, you're going to get $110 off of a $100 bet. And if it's supposed to be 50-50, well, then you're going to make $10 more every time you win. So let's say that the bet was you went 10 times, it was 5 and 5. Well, now you have $550 because you were making $10 on every single bet. That would be kind of what a positive EV bet would be every time you make the bet, you're making at even odds, but you're getting plus money. That is a straight positive EV bet. That's like the definition of the positive EV bet. Now, let me go back. Now let me explain the other type of way you could have bet this. And it's just another form of positive EV betting, which is something that we just talked about. I'm going to call it hedging positive EV. So instead of only betting the $100 on heads that pays you at 110, you also bet the $100 on the tails. So now every time you're betting $200, you're winning $210 every single time, unless it falls on tails, which then you just get your money back and you're never losing money. So you're, instead of taking the positive bet at 110, which would be even odds, but they're paying you plus, right? You're doing it the other way, where you're hedging on the other side of the bet to get your money back if you lose. Now, you're not going to find these type of bets in the books, but this is positive EV at its like core. But most people are going to explain to you positive EV because you're not really hedging your bet when you're making a positive EV bet. You're making a positive EV bet when the odds are even and you're getting plus money.
All right. So I had a different, now I'm with you 100%. Tell me if this is an example of positive EV. So take coin flips out of it. I'm a visual guy. My example was Cubs versus Cardinals, right? So I have one book, let's call it Pinnacle, and I have the Cardinals at minus 105, right? And then I have another book, MGM, and they got the Cubs plus 110. In your scenario, I'm putting $100 wager on each team. If the Cardinals win, if you lay $105 to win 100, right? You're winning that. Cubs win, you lay the same amount. How much are you winning?
Okay, so wait. You got Cubs at.
So I guess the only difference is to make my let's say instead of 105, because I was actually using something because I've never seen an actual minus 100. So let's make this make more sense. There's a game going on today. We have the Cardinals and the Cubs. I got the Cardinals at minus 100. I got the Cubs at plus 110. Now I'm using the same. 100. I'm using the same odds that you were using in the coin flip.
It's just even.
However you want to call it.
You got the Cardinals at even.
Cardinals at even.
And you have, and what else? The Cubs at plus money.
Yes. So under that scenario, if I bet both sides, would that be considered positive EV?
Okay, but how are you getting this? Are you shopping around?
Well, yeah. Obviously, you're shopping around.
Okay, so two things here. That would be called that would be line shopping, which is heavily involved with positive EV betting. Okay, it's a lot of line shopping. Now, what you really need to ask yourself in that scenario is what is, and this is why a lot of people would, I guess, use Pinnacle. What is the even, like, what is even bet? Is the Cardinals at even money an even bet, or is that more of like a plus 105? And well, first, I mean, that's line shopping, basically.
Line shopping, and then it goes actually back to calculating the EV, right? Because you have to. Do you actually ask yourself, is this truly a minus 100, or even money bet, or like, do you ever question the book's grading of a game? Well, or are you going with what they're giving you, trusting that and then moving forward with whatever.
Well, again, that's why I go back to what I kind of preach is I use the books, but you understand where the books are as far as which way they're going to shade. You know, like if I am using Pinnacle, which I very rarely do, I understand that the lines are technically, from whatever I understand, they're pretty tight and they're pretty much on. Where like some of these other books, we won't name them, where you'll see the numbers are complete, way off from where Pinnacle's at. And as long as you understand that, they're always, and this is why I like to use it, they're always kind of shading, right? They're always kind of shading the public narrative of a specific event. So if you can just take, generally like the dog in the situation, even if it's a favorite, whatever the more public book wants you to take, you want to go the opposite way. That's why they offer you all those bets, beforehand, those pre-made bets. It's like, if he throws over 100 yards, you're gonna get, this, you're gonna win this bet. When you know that the quarterback doesn't throw, he runs, and he's not going to get over 100 yards. But they're offering you that. It's a public bet. It's an easy number, an attainable number. Oh, he can only throw over 100 yards. I mean, that's just the way I would judge those books. So whenever you're thinking about like a sharper book, well, then you have to understand that those books aren't necessarily trying to get you onto a game. They're just trying to balance their sheets. They're being more fair. They're trying to give... they're just trying to make sure they get money on both sides. They're more about making money in that way than trying to be more public and just trying to get everyone on one side so that the other side wins and then they take your money. And I think, what you explained, like I said, in the numbers that you presented, it would be kind of hard not to say that would be positive EV. What you're expecting is if you were to make that same bet 100 times, right, or 1,000 times, you would make money and not lose money, or you would be in the positive and not the negative. And that's why when you're talking about positive EV betting, which is what I was bringing up before, there's really two ways you can go about it. You can make a bet where it's positive but can still lose, but you're accounting for making more positive bets that win that don't. Or there's, like how I was explaining before, where there's the positive EV hedging bet, where you just make sure that no matter what happens in the outcome of the bet, you're going to win money, or you're going to get your money back at the least. And, maybe there's a slight, middle there, which is something that, when you are middling, it's like a natural, it's a natural aspect of positive EV betting. So if you're middling, you're doing this thing, if you can get positive, that's okay. So looking at middling from now on, I think the thing that I took out of everything that I looked at was when you want to middle, you want to have positive odds. So if you take a team and let's say, you're getting 7 or no, tonight, actually, I think it's the Thunder. The line's at 11. I took it all the way down to like 9. I got positive odds, and I'm hoping that halftime, maybe if the game's a little closer, I can try to middle it. It's kind of a little thought experiment that I'm doing with it. But
so you're going into the game attempting to actually middle it.
I would like to middle it if I could do it at positive odds.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're middling at negative odds, I can't say that that's positive EV betting. So if you can kind of set yourself up for positive, that was really why I didn't take that bet yesterday with the plus 160, because I was already on a bet at minus 110. Now thinking about it, I should have maybe did an alternate line where I got positive odds, and then I would have had a better opportunity and feeling of trying to middle, because then this way I would have positive on both sides. I could have just, instead of let's say I had $100 on it, and I would, on a 110 bet, that would be like a $90 winner. Then you just put $90 on the others on the plus 160. But yeah, I mean, I just think positive. I mean, then you really want the outcome to go over, because then you're going to win more. And in most situations, I just feel better when you can make a bet, and regardless what happens, you either win or you won't get, you get your money back. Now, the other thing that we can kind of classify positive EV betting, closing line value. Are you familiar with closing line value?
No, enlighten us.
Okay, so closing line value is basically when you bet something when the line opens, and by the time it closes, you got the better end of the deal. Now, when you're closing, when you're doing closing line value, kind of positive EV betting, if you can get ahead of the market on a move, okay, the opportunity is there to middle, hedging positive EV. So when you're dealing with closing line value, it's just a byproduct of positive EV betting. You're looking to get positive odds on a bet that if you were to make it, over and over and over again, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. But theoretically, it should be a 50-50 shot. And if it's a 50-50 shot, well, then you're going to gain whatever profits are on the plus side of that bet.
So theoretically, we're telling our viewers that what you're trying to do in essence is basically take both sides of a particular bet, only when the circumstances, when I say circumstances, I mean the juice being offered on both sides allows you to make a profit on the overall event.
I wouldn't allow this to change any way you bet other than something you couldn't. I don't think it's possible for anybody to just hear anybody in particular, let alone us, say, well, that's the way we're going to bet, right? I think if you can just take away something from the mumble jumble that we just did, that would be what I would think that you would want to do. Now, what that something is, it's up to you. Like, what I'm taking away from this is, hedging in positive EV, like I said, that's something, I think it's something I want to look at a little bit more. I definitely saw the plus 160, thought about it, had an opportunity. I mean, you have an opportunity at a great middle, and you on both sides of the bet. One is positive, and one you'll just kind of get your money back. It was like a win-win. Instead, you're looking at it and you're saying to yourself, well, I'll just stick with my bet. Well, guess what happened? The next 3 quarters, they scored, and they went over 232 to 235. And I lost, And so at the end of the day, like, inaction definitely hurt. And I guess you can't always take an action, on some of these. But, if I guess if the opportunity's there, if you are some kind of positive EV bettor, then that's what you do. You always take the bet that over the long term will win. Now, the one thing that we, before I get to that, arbitrage betting. Are you familiar with arbitrage betting, my guy?
Go ahead and enlighten us.
So you're not a big arbitrage bettor, are you?
I mean, I've heard of the term, and again, the scenario that I had for arbitrage betting was the Cubs guards, the Cubs versus Cards.
Here's a good arbitrage story. So arbitrage is generally used across multiple facets of life. It's basically when there's a market and you're able to manipulate the market, when there's markets and you're able to manipulate those markets by using one market against the other. And in this situation, it could be like trading. So imagine this, and this is something that actually happened, which is a really great segue into SBF. So when I first heard about SBF, I go, who the hell is this guy? Which is why I kind of think back at why I've always been kind of skeptical and never really liked the guy to begin with. But it took this whole scenario thing that happened for me to realize. But I do remember saying this. I asked how he got his money. And what I was told was he was an arbitrage trader. Now, what that means is he was buying Bitcoin on one exchange and then selling it on another exchange at a different value. Now, when he's able to do that, all he's doing is buying somewhere and selling somewhere else. And they call it inefficiency. When you have inefficiencies in the market, you can do that. Generally in the stock market and stuff like that, there's not much inefficiency. There's arbitrage trading is more done on computers now, where the computers make the arbitrage bets, and the faster the bet, that's a whole different story. But for crypto, what Sam Bankman-Fried did, or what was told to me, is he made a bot on his computer or whatnot, and was just arbitrage betting Bitcoin and Ethereum or whatever. And he was using, I think, a Korean exchange, a South Korean exchange. And there was a point where the South Korean exchange had a different price for Bitcoin than all the other markets around the world. So you can buy in South Korea the Bitcoin, they're on their markets, on their exchanges, and then sell it somewhere else and just keep doing this and doing this and doing this. And a lot of times when you're doing it, the arbitrage amount is very minute. But if you have a bot that does it all day very quickly, you're able to make a lot of small term trades. They call that arbitrage trading. That was really the first time that I was introduced to Sam Bankman-Fried. And I thought to myself, like, man, so this guy's basically stealing the money of Bitcoin. Because if you think about it, if he's arbitrage trading Bitcoin and, theoretically gaining wealth through all these trades, he's suppressing the price. So it really kind of, in my opinion, I remember thinking, like, man, this guy isn't good for crypto. He's bad for crypto. Anybody who's arbitrage trading in that type of market is bad, at least in my opinion. For me, like, maybe not in like a big scheme, but in he is eventually, because he's suppressing the price. Now, when we're talking arbitrage betting, which is similar, it doesn't hurt me at all. I mean, because then they're doing it against the books. And basically what arbitrage betting is, when you have one book who's offering, let's say, even money, right? And another book is offering plus 110. Well, you could not buy, but you'll want to take the plus 110. And let me make sure I have this right. You're using multiple markets to always get, it's kind of, I guess you would say, price shopping, but so if you're getting 110 at one book for one team, and they're playing the other team, and you're getting, let's say, 110 from another book, you're both getting positive odds. That's not really middling. This is kind of like arbitrage trading, because you're getting better numbers from two different books, two different markets, which is exactly kind of what arbitrage trading is. But for arbitrage bettors, they still have to win, and that's where the variance ties into that. So you have all these different ways of betting, right? You have arbitrage trading or betting, where you're market shopping. You have closing line value, where you're just trying to get ahead of the market. And then
what about calculators? Do you ever use those, the EV calculators online, or no?
Well, okay, so that's EV calculators. They use a formula, and that's you're looking at always getting the bet at plus odds. And I don't mean plus money odds, I just mean like plus, like, so as long as the bet is even and you're getting even to plus even odds, that's a plus EV bet. When you're using the formulas that's widely available, basically it's helping you determine whether or not those specific games fall within
the EV category,
because the game could be
so they could be good, not for everything, but supplemental too.
Okay, it goes like this. So, like, all right, let me ask you. Okay, so you have a team that is 12-point favorites, and it's minus 110. You're getting 12 points, but then you have another book that's offering you plus 20 at plus 110. Again, this is where they all kind of intertwine, but like theoretically, if one book is telling you, the sharpest book, let's just say Pinnacle, is telling you that it's 12, then if you were to take the 20 every single time, you should win more times. So it's a plus EV bet. So when you're getting more value than what the market, the flat market value is across a respected market. So if Pinnacle is telling you it's worth this and you're getting way more on another book, well, then that's what that is. So you would want to make that bet all the time. Whenever they give you those numbers and those odds, oh, they're giving you 20 points at the same odds.
That happens in game a lot. Well, we see that happen
that's
too.
That's live betting. And that's
you can look at where something opened at versus where it's at currently in game, and you can make the same like the same assertion. You could see where it opened at, for instance, on Pinnacle, and then let's just say in game it didn't really change, but then one team started to pull away, and now, like you say, in game it goes up to that plus 20. You can always go back to that original grading of the game from a trusted book and then determine whether or not you may even have a positive EV type of a bet.
We've always, me and you personally, not here, we've always kind of talked about in-game betting, whether or not to respect the opening line number and use that as kind of a guide. So like if you're getting a team at even, all of a sudden they're losing and you're getting 10 points, do you still take the 10 points or not? When I think in those terms, I think it can get very tricky because the variance is there's a lot of variance in EV betting. Unless you have positive EV betting on the hedging, I don't like it. I think, like I said, coming away from this, positive hedging EV. Even if you don't make a lot of money, or if you don't make a lot, like if we're talking about positive EV, that is what it is.
Small growth is better than no growth.
Well, that's what a lot of I think that's what a lot of smart bettors do, as kind of like if they want to be traders. Like how many people, you have to make a lot of bets to be profitable in those type of situations. You have to put a lot of time, which is something that I want to talk about how much time, we're not going to do it today, but how much time you actually put into some of these bets sometimes, and if it's actually worth it. Just in short, I saw a person put in 256 bets and was up 30 units, or won 30 more games than lost, was up like 10 plus units. And when you break it down, if you were spending like 15 minutes on each bet, you're only making, it was like $13 an hour or something like that. Then you have to ask yourself if that's even worth it.
That's worth it.
Which again, is EV betting even worth it? Because you have to find it. There's a lot of time. I'm not saying as an irresponsible bettor that, hey, this is a bad way of going about things, but I think it's been kind of classified as like the only way of winning. I've actually seen that before. Like, oh, the only way you can actually win is positive EV betting. I think they just mean you need to make bets that win more than lose more. Wouldn't you say that's?
I would say that's a fair assertion.
But the law of numbers. Now you learn something.
Learn something new.
Yeah.
The more you know.
We'll be back next time.